Okay, guys, till the time I think Abhinav joins us, I am going to take this session forward. Welcome, Anshit. Um, so, Anshit is the owner of Elysian Delights. That's a vegan cafe in Gurugram. And because he's also a stakeholder in this important policy discussion, we've thought of asking him a few questions here. So, Anshit, we would like to know your perspective about certain things. The first question to you would be, what have been the challenges for you in the F&B industry, given that your venture is based on making plant-based food products saleable?
All right. So the thing is, a few challenges which are very common for I think a lot of vegan businesses is low awareness and low acceptance.
Okay.
Awareness is based. I'll give you a simple example, right? So I went to a
Hmm.
South Indian restaurant for having dosa. I asked the manager if it had ghee in it. So he was proud to say that the dosa had ghee inside it. And yeah, I finally came laughing outside. But the thing was that milk, butter, ghee, paneer, these are all considered premium products. And also based on our culture, again, the acceptance bit, people don't accept that these can be bad for you because these have been done for a long period of time. And the same thing, like a simple logic that milk is for baby, it is not for uh, adults or humans as such. So
Yeah.
this is a little difficult for them to understand. And apart from a few products like burgers, rolls that are very common, when you come on to having pizzas which have vegan cheeses, you always have a little, in terms of non-vegans, you have a little apprehension what their reaction would be and how they'll accept it or not. Because we are used to having a gooey topping on pizzas and
Yeah, that's
that
true.
kind of yeah, and thick crusts. Now, if you moving from thick crust to thin crust, also currently in our current location, people expected to have a thick crust with a fat exterior in the pizza instead of thin crust, even if they know that having all-purpose flour isn't that good. So these are the first basics, and then we have raw material issues for the business. Now the
Hmm.
thing is, if a normal bakery starts up
Yeah.
and they have, let's say they make cakes, so a lot of items in the market are available for ready to use. Something like, let's say, chocolate glazes or fruit glaze or the fillings that we have. So for them it will be easier to use, but for us, these products have dairy so we try to avoid artificial colors and artificial flavorings as far as possible. And can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, okay. Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah, so the same thing again, the pizza bases and everything that these are again raw materials, but it was difficult for us to source them from someone because buns, pizza bases, they generally have butter and ghee in them. So we could not trust another brand to make it for us and give it to us because they were making it on the same table with the same hands. So then I visited a few bakeries and then finally decided to make it on our own. So the thing is, if we make it on our own, we make it in a way that the wastages are minimum. Say we make 6 burgers a day, but it would be more expensive for us to make these because we make just 6 at a time. But again, the cost increase for us here, so profits reduce in this case. And the last
Uh,
point would be economic and location based. Uh, Economic and location. So if you go to an expensive place, there's a high risk with vegan products because people might not accept the product, and you end up paying a lot of rent, a lot of salaries to everyone, and then your sales are not that high. And if we go to a low income area where rents are low, people there would probably find this a little bit expensive or a foreign concept. They would not accept it that easily. So if it's a
Sorry
normal dairy
for
based, yeah. So yeah.
yeah, sorry for interrupting. We are out of bit time. So there are plenty of questions waiting for you to answer.
Okay.
The next question is very interesting. I found the question is, what have been the challenges on the supply as well as demand side of this business venture?
Okay, so supply and demand both have their limitations right now. The thing is, we have few vegans, and there's like if we consider Delhi NCR for us, these vegans are spread in Noida, a few in Gurgaon, a few in Delhi, a few in Faridabad, a few in Manesar. So it's not like concentrated like in based on our location. All of them are probably are roughly delivery area starts from 5 to 7 kilometers up to 22 kilometers. So we know how difficult it is to for people to be carefree about eating food, knowing that it's vegan. So we because when I became vegan, I understood. Even small biscuits have dairy products in it for no reason. And when we started this, we had an idea to make it affordable and also to get it to as far as possible to customers inside Delhi NCR to start with. So
Yeah.
now the idea is if we could have a set of kitchens every 10 kilometers, people could join in, whoever is interested. Then what happens is we form a chain. So we can cover a whole batch of Delhi NCR and then supply would be easier. It becomes difficult for one cafe to supply, let's say, in Faridabad. They like the product, they've eaten it in our cafe, but when they order to Faridabad, it takes like long time to deliver. And obviously the thing will probably get cold and get spoiled on the way. For chocolate spreads that we
Yeah.
make, that's easier. That go online. So we make it once and it is around 4 to 5 months. So we plan on making more such products like vegan butter and vegan cream. So that way, then we can enable customers to make their products on their own. Just buy the product from the store or online, and then instead of waiting for someone else to come and deliver to your doorstep, you can start making stuff on your own. So the demand and supply right now, it's like a limited area and demand.
Yeah, even in the times of like crisis right now, we are suffering COVID, so there must be some problems. At the
Yeah,
same
true.
time, at the same time, I felt like most of the participants on this webinar must be interested in this question particularly. And this question is, with the prevalent culture of junk food, every youth you can see everywhere, they are very much into hamburgers, chicken burgers, beef burgers, etc. Where food giants like KFC, McD exist. How successfully will be able to employ the culture of veganism? Because that's a major point.
Okay. Yeah. So the thing is, people confuse vegan food with healthy food. So healthy food is something which may avoid all-purpose flour and let's say oils and too much sugar. If you reduce that, that kind of goes towards the healthier side. But we have pani puri, we have papri chaat. If you remove the curd and add vegan curd to it, it kind of becomes the same junk food, right? We have burgers in our cafe. We have burgers. We don't use refined oils. We make our own mayonnaise so that the preservatives are avoided. So and uh, in the past we've seen the advertisements and everything are based on emotions and culture, so kind of misleads people into having junk food as well. So what we do is we try to make it a little bit healthier. We probably be adding a few more options like gluten free and whole food plant based foods in near future.
That's
But vegan food, the general food is as junk as your normal food, just eliminating the dairy. So, and there's obviously whole food plant based, which is actually healthy for you. So, it's pretty much the same, just a little bit of changes here and there.
yeah. Thank you for this such an interesting. Must be very curious to know about it, about the vegan and the thin line between participants. To if they have any question to Tanya, they can directly they can ask and start shooting questions on Tanya, and she will be answering those questions related to policies and animal farming, animal agriculture. Yeah.
So, Abhinav, there's a question by Tanya Tushali. Tanya, if you could
Yeah.
just look into that question once. You can see it in the chat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that is a very, I think, this question is having a different dynamic. So the question, I'll read the question. The animal agriculture sector in India is very much divided along caste and class lines. She has mentioned caste and class lines. It is often easier for a certain section of society to access cruelty-free organic products or vegan food. Do you have any insights into how this will be taken into consideration while planning and executing any policy? Yeah,
Yes. So
yes,
earlier we were talking about why meat is high rise consumption. There's a lot of consumption. Meat is increasing all over the place. I said that the major reason for that is that vegetables and fruits which have the same nutrients are more expensive and less affordable. Same remains true even for uh, products that the question refers to, that yes, so far it is to do with only few people can afford vegan or plant-based products. But yes, at the policy level, this is a problem of our uh, food pricing policies. That is something that the government has to look into. We have also worked on a paper which can be easily accessed to on it's available on our website, which talks about pricing, food pricing, and how that affects better food, sustainable food choices for the consumers. So to start looking into it, we have to start looking at the way we fresh plant-based produced has to be made more affordable through better pricing policies. Sustainable agriculture, because we have so far improved and made a lot of changes in our horticulture policy. So we produce a lot more vegetables and fruits. But why is it, like she rightly points out, that a lot of people can't afford it? That is to do with the problem of policy. It's the economics of it, which has to change at the policy level if we have to make it more affordable and more sustainable for throughout the spectrum of caste and class in a country like India.
yeah. And one more question from our participant. Uh, uh, sh- she has asked a very good question, which I suppose is totally related to the things that we are discussing. How can the policy initiative be made accessible to people of every order? And like it is usually difficult to manage the attitude of the people, especially who are very stubborn, and if they're thinking especially related to food choices. So can the awareness be created evenly?
Of course, like the policy suggestions that I was talking about, we have clearly mentioned that there are two fronts that we have to work on. One is that there should be campaigns where you make people aware about the way you made them aware about how you should consume more milk and egg. Do the same for plant-based diets to make them aware about the choices available. That even if you do away with dairy in your diet, or if you do away with meat, if you have enough plant-based products and how and what of it, then your body will get sufficient nutrition. That's one end. That's for the people who can afford it. I completely understand that. The other end is what I already talked about in the previous question, food pricing. We have to look at it and ensure that even our vegetables and fruits have equitable prices, and not just meat and poultry should be affordable for everyone, but even equally, then people can choose, that which one do they want to go for. And the third front, which is important, is you need to tell the consumer how their products have been derived. So far, as consumers, it's not a transparent business in our country. We just see that Amul is everywhere. We see animal products everywhere. We don't know what has an animal gone through for this, and how is factory farming harming the environment? How is the injection of all those hormones affecting their own health as consumers? So maybe way more transparent policies, way more open access to how our factories are manufacturing animal products. All these factors together can make it, this concern can be addressed for people across the spectrum.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. One of our participants has Siddharth Kaushik is having a question which is, when it comes to animal policies within India, how can the government effectively implement these policies, considering most of the illegal practices are carried out in villages and the government has previously failed to implement such policies when it comes to the villages? Yeah,
So the reason for why government has failed to implement these, that we saw that you have landless farmers or very poor farmers, if they can easily get into animal agriculture sector and make money and help themselves, the government obviously by all means tries to promote it, because we haven't looked at alternative sources. The other, in the illegal trade that he's talking about, I'm not very clear what he means by that, because there are instances where illegal trade of animal corpses is that is something which is widespread in India. But apart from that, as far as livestock farming and production is concerned, farmers even in villages that he's talking about, the way I have understood the question, I think I don't understand that part of it. Which illegal practices, if he can maybe specify, I'll be able to address that better. But generally, like I quoted, the reason the government hasn't promoted it on the other side, because we know how our farmers, we haven't given our farmers anything else. So that's again a problem of our policies. We haven't looked into what are the alternatives of animal agriculture and high reliability on that for the villages and rural livelihood opportunities. I see a lot of other questions too, so I'm hoping that you guys you can feel free to
Yeah,
mail these
absolutely,
to us.
absolutely.
Yes,
One
and I
more,
will do.
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Dia has one question in her mind, and she asked, also a complaint often aimed at veganism is that it is rooted in elitism. She has marked elitism, and the capitalistic branding of vegan foods has led to furthering the division between people of different classes.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Well, that's a whole different debate, and the
Okay,
elitism
one
that
second. Maybe Anshit, you would like to take this question up, if you can.
yes, I'll do. Yes.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, that will be more appropriate, I think. So yeah.
Okay, so I'll go by example. You have home sweets, you have a pizza there, right? That's about 900 rupees without tax. So comes around 118, 120 rupees with tax. So we start our pizzas with 140, which has cashews, oil free. So you see, it's not all that expensive. Uh, Based on the location of the cafe, or if you let's say you take like we source cashews in bulk, right? So if you are getting it at 800 rupees, I might be getting it at 700. So you can approach cafes, vegan cafes, and maybe source from them, uh, and use that to make your own products in-house. Firstly, that will avoid preservatives and will be better for you. Your the cost of medical expenses drastically reduces. So if I'm suppose like my sister had a gallbladder surgery, so if her diet, like we were suggesting her, would have been in a particular way, uh, she would have probably saved 70, 80,000 in that operation, right? So you've got to look at it in both point of views. You are eating food to help yourself and to avoid medical expenses. And comparing the pricing, let's say in terms of milk, if you make soya milk on your own, it's probably around 40 rupees a liter, whereas a dairy that you get outside, firstly comes in plastic, right? Second, excluding all the animal cruelty, it comes around 52 rupees, 55 rupees a liter. That's still expensive than the soy milk that you can make at home. Similar thing goes with the cashews and almonds. If you take it from outside, the packaged ones, that will be around 400 rupees a liter almond milk. But if you make it yourself, it will be thicker, it will be without preservatives. And you can probably flavor it according to yourself, right? So I feel your normal dal, roti, sabji, everything is under vegan. Just the pricing policy that Tanya was talking about, that the meat is cheaper right now compared to dal, because last year I remember when the dal prices were high, I asked a friend of mine who was from Bengal. He said 1 kg of meat cost me less than 1 kg of dal. So why should I go and purchase dal? And the pricing policy has to work in that area to like my dad also has a small land in Mathura. The farmers there continuously grow one particular type of food all the time, spoiling the soil. So the thing is that particular food sells, the rest of it doesn't sell. So they don't form a cooperative society. There is no government aid to them in terms of minimum wage or something, where they can probably venture into other foods and then grow different foods in different lands together to keep the soil good and the water levels good. That will probably help reduce the cost in a way, if you're talking about fruits and vegetables. So it's pretty much the same. I mean, if you look at it in long term, it's just the medical cost, the pollution that's less, all that reduces. So someone probably has to pay a little more for that in a way.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
to add. Yeah, to add on to what
Yeah,
Anshit said, because I saw that Dia asked another question that we can stick to the conversation with respect to soy milk and almond milk. Okay, I think there's a technical error again. So thank you everyone who has joined us so far.
okay.
Okay, can you hear me everyone? Because there is a glitch at my Yes, end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
no, we can hear you
yeah, yeah.
and it's perfectly all right. You can go on. Great, great, great. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was saying in terms of talking about pricing of food and what Anjit already talked about, that health prices, the cost of medical expenses goes down. If by that what you mean is what to answer Dia's question, the other end of it, that yeah, a poor man can only maybe give their children cow's milk for a day and that's the only food if he or she can afford, then that how can you tell them that we should switch to almond milk? That is again somewhere they are the problem of our food pricing currently. And also you have to look at why, I know culturally and caste and class dynamics come into play when we talk about food pricing and about elitism and veganism. Fact remains that how did the dependency on animal products, if we go look back at our economics of this sector, how did it become so popular and affordable for everyone? Because government policies have in fact pushed for it for all those years. And that's why the poor man eventually can afford sugar, he can afford some milk, and he can afford definitely some animal product, whatever meat that would be. And that fills their tummy. That's the end point for a person who has no affordability of any other products whatsoever. So again, the origin of it, the cause of it is that so far our policies have pushed for, because of the economics of it, we have pushed for policies that help us benefit from the dairy sector. So the elitism came in the other end because somewhere we don't want to switch our policies and start looking at alternatives while making them affordable, when we know that our present policies are unsustainable for the environment, not good for the health of even the poor man who's having it. Because if milk and meat is all you are eating in a week's time, say in the name of nutrition, and still they are also injected with a lot of hormones, then you can't even imagine the effects that it can have on your health. Even as a poor person, we'll never even get to know what went wrong. So it all begins with how we have looked at our policies so far, and that's where we have to go back to fix the problem.
Yeah, true. Uh, one a very interesting question. This might be this is can be the last question. I'll say the last question, and that has the present scenario being discussed in this question. And I suppose this question has a very relevant point. Bhakti is making a relevant point, and her question is: after the COVID-19 situation is under control, dynamics of food market will be changed. Since this virus can be found in animals, also animal-based food products will be affected also. So how food policies will play a role to provide enough to larger part of population of middle class, lower middle class, and below poverty line population? Yeah, Tanya.
I think I will be repeating myself if I answer this question. I understand it's in light of the present pandemic, but what I said, food pricing, food policies, transparency in terms of what our factory farming is doing with animals, the impact it has on environment, and now with the, in reference to the present pandemic, the effect eventually how viruses that are because of interaction of wet markets, what happened in China. We all know the origin somewhere lies in those wet markets, which were consuming, which promoted consumption of wild species of animals. So taking into consideration all these factors together, while we look at sustainable options, while at a country level we begin with lowering our farmers' dependence on livestock production, and what our policy paper also suggested, that you have to make them look towards diversification of crops, maybe higher subsidy on crops which are economically more beneficial and could be more reliant, like a flax or a hemp. And eventually, it's not an overnight process. It's not like tomorrow our farmers will get up and they'll be doing flax and hemp, and that will be the end of animal agriculture. It won't happen in a day. But keeping in line with what happened recently with because of because of using animal products widely and without any relentlessly, so to say, yes, beginning point will be to help our farmers look at diversified options in the plant-based market, helping smaller companies. And if you're looking at alternative dairy products, then telling your people better. And most important, I think, in case of India, because yeah, we have a disparity of income. Everyone is aware of that. Is food pricing. We'll have to look at food pricing and
ensure that dairy isn't the cheapest and most affordable source, which is also then going to be promoted as the best. And you have to promote even plant-based products. You have to ensure prices are equitable in the market. Then you give some power to the consumer, whether it's a poor man or a middle-class person who has opportunities and alternatives in the market. Tell them how it's been originated. Tell them the health consequences. Tell them about the nutrients that both plant and animal products can comprehensively cover for a human body, and then let them choose. We, as a country, will have to look towards that. And
Yeah.
yes, in life, pandemic too.
Thank you, Tanya. Uh, the probably this will be the last question of this session. The question has been asked by Sharanya, and she has this question is for both of you, Anchita and Tanya. What, according to you, can government do to promote and spread the word about veganism? Will it be profitable in the long run? They have two parts. The two parts. The first part is what, according to you, can government do to promote and spread the word about veganism? And the second part is, will it be profitable in the long run? Yeah, the floor is open for both of you. You can answer this question. Yeah.
You want to go first, Tanya?
No, Anju, this is you should answer.
Acha. For the first part of the question, there are two things. Like, firstly, I remember the Ayush sector, Ayush segment of the government had put up a post about veganism a few weeks back, in fact, and within 24 hours, it was taken down. I had also seen a report from government which invested more in slaughterhouses, and they also promote. I think there's a connection with Amul as well. I'd seen a documentary where this was mentioned. So the thing is, instead of promoting, see, this is something that needs education. So any product that requires education needs a little time to sell. So what the government can do right now is maybe small segments of ads. They can start about nutrition. When you have a break between two programs or something, just give a nutrition ad that flaxseed does this for you. This maybe chia seed does this for you. Soya milk does this for you. So that way, people start becoming aware of alternatives first, and jumping from one to another will not happen overnight. Then maybe try it for, like, one of my friends recently was turning vegan. So what he did was he tried soy milk, kesar pista for like 3-4 days. Then he went back to dairy. Then he tried the vanilla flavor. Then he liked the chocolate one. So, then they tried the almond milk. So education through ads, through FM radios can be started on a small scale. And the second thing, profitable in the long run, if you've seen a documentary called What the Health, they kind of provide a link between pharma companies and the government, which try to keep you in loop, tied to the hospitals. So you have to, you eat something that takes you to the hospital, but they're also promoting that same thing that gets you back to the hospital after you're cured, right? So that model currently is, if that documentary states it correctly, is more profitable for that section. But if as a whole you consider that the country has to grow, then you obviously have to turn to a more sustainable side of growing vegetables, reducing land that's kept for cattle and using it for building up forests so that the pollutions reduce, health of people improves. So that's the way to go. I mean, you can start with ads itself. That's what I can say, because the previous ads initially were based on, like I said, initially emotions and culture. Any ad that is based on emotion, say Amul Doodh Pita hai India, right? So that gets your patriotism in picture. So that's an emotion that the ad is playing with. Kuch meetha ho jaye before you start something, go something by Cadbury. So that's also something. Dahi kha ke jao was dahi and chakkar kha ke jao. Instead of that, you're going for an exam, have a Cadbury or something, right? So they're playing with emotions, and so now what we have to do is give consumers the correct information instead of misdirecting them. A little bit of information at a time. If you give them overload, like I might end up doing right now, That kind of becomes a little boring, and people might miss out points. So yeah, that's the whole from my side.
Yeah, you want to add anything, Tanya? Anything? One sentence or something?
I think Anshit has comprehensively answered that
Yeah,
question.
true. So yeah, it was a very informative one. So it's time for a wrap, and we'll wrap the session. And before ending the session, I would like to thank the speakers who took out and shared this platform and enlighten the participants regarding the animal agriculture and food policies in India. So hope their valuable comments and inputs will help the participant to build an insight into the issues, and then in future we are able to make a significant progress in the sustainable agriculture sector. So thank you all for this informative session, and now signing off, wishing you all a nice day and stay home and stay safe. Thank you and goodbye.